Hello and welcome to Thrive in 5. I think it was a couple of decades ago, but I can never forget the young unmarried guy at my Shabbos table who told me he wanted to get married because he wanted to feel more confident. I'd been married a couple of years by then. I found it pretty amusing. I think all I could tell him was we need to talk. I think anybody who's been married knows that marriage is not necessarily going to make you feel more confident, but I don't know if everybody realizes why. You see, confidence is an emotional state, and emotional states are not caused by outside factors, which is why I found the headline on my computer this morning to be particularly disturbing. It reads, Harvard psychiatrist says 3 things are the secret to real happiness, and it enumerates close relationships, quality of relationships, and a stable marriage. Now, far be it from me to take on a Harvard psychiatrist, especially one with his own TED Talk, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I think he's dead wrong, and I think he's wrong in a way that can cause lots of problems. But let me first clarify. I have no problem with healthy, happy relationships. I think they're an important and potentially very enjoyable part of life. And I have no problem with the overall findings of the study, which find a correlation between healthy relationships and happy people. What I do have a problem with is the conclusion of the study. I think he makes the all too common mistake of confusing correlation with causation. I do not believe that close, healthy relationships produce happy people. If anything, I would say that happy people are more likely to enjoy close, healthy relationships. Now, why do I say this? Because what these studies generally don't reveal is that although there is a correlation between healthy people, healthy relationships, and happy people, there are inevitably going to be exceptions. There are going to be people in close-knit, warm, caring relationships who aren't happy, and there are going to be people who are happy who don't enjoy those kinds of relationships. And although these may be the exceptions to the rule, I think they prove the rule, because if I can have these kinds of relationships and not be happy, or be happy without these kinds of relationships, then clearly the relationships are not the cause of my happiness. What is, you may ask? Well, if we look a little bit deeper, I think we're going to find that there's really only one cause to happiness, or any other emotional state in the universe for that matter. Our happiness is caused by the way we think about our lives, be it the stuff we have, our jobs, our relationships, or I think most importantly, ourselves. If we think about these things in positive and hopeful and grateful ways, I think we'll feel happy. But if we think about these things in negative and very anxious and ungrateful ways, we're going to be pretty miserable, no matter what we have or whatever happens to us. I don't think this is a semantic point. When we believe that a relationship holds the key to our happiness, we're setting ourselves up for some really big problems, not the least of which is a failure to take responsibility for our own happiness. We fail to recognize that if we really genuinely want to be happy, we need to look no further than ourselves. In this week's Torah portion, Parshas Shmos, we're told that Moshe shepherded his flocks well into the wilderness in order to receive his first prophetic experience at the burning bush. What we may not realize is he spent about 40 years shepherding his flocks in the wilderness, most of the time in pretty serious seclusion. What the Rabbeinu Bachi, one of the great commentators, points out is that Moshe was actually adhering to a well-known practice of his forefathers, which was to seclude himself in order to prepare himself to receive prophecy. Moshe understood that in order to enjoy the high level and close relationship with his Creator that we call prophecy, he would have to first inculcate the proper mindset, the proper character within himself. And while a prophetic vision is certainly of a different order than a human relationship, even a marriage, I think the point applies here as well. The quality of my relationship is largely going to be determined before the relationship ever happens. It's going to be determined by the quality of my inner life. Just yesterday, I had a long conversation with a dear friend of mine. He was very upset, very anxious about a romantic relationship that he feared was about to end. And he kept telling me why the relationship was important to him, all the good things he gets from it. And although I could hear about these things, I could see why they're good things, I felt compelled to point out to him that none of those things were going to give him the happiness that he seeks, and that he'll never find happiness within a relationship until he can find happiness within himself by himself. And I know he didn't want to hear it. But to his credit, he listened, and I think he did hear something, because he answered with humility, and he told me that in spite of 2 long-term marriages, he's always had a struggle finding happiness. Now, I know this conversation didn't solve everything, but it left me, and I think him, feeling a lot better, a lot more hopeful, not only because he's going to work with me as a client to learn more about how to be happy, but because, more importantly, hopefully at the very least, he now knows that when we look for our happiness in any other place outside of ourselves, we're looking for our happiness in a place where it will never be found. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for our next Thrive in 5.